Hello. All right, listen. All right. All of my videos are opinion based, how I feel about the world, and my opinions are gathered using what I've learned from the world. So I don't want y'all thinking I'm just out here talking. All right, but I want to make a video on friendship because a lot of people don't actually know what it means to be friends. A lot of people have these ideas of friendship that are very fairy tale and make no sense, nor do they have any basis of why. Okay? So, let me see my phone again. Maybe that'll see it. Alright, it's best that y'all can't see my face anyway. Mother. Alright. Sorry about that, it's just a minute in. Alright, so listen. Being friends, alright, when you're friends with somebody, alright, let's start from the beginning. Alright. Everybody is a stranger to everybody else. Okay? The only people that know you before you know who you are the people that take care of you. Alright? The only people that know you once you're taken care of, once you get out into the real world, are the people that you allow in. Okay? And the people that you allow in, it's strictly up to you. Alright? You can always control how much information is being filtered. And you can always control how much of yourself you give to somebody else. Okay? So, once you meet people, okay, and you start hanging around them, you should have no intentions for them. You should have no standards set for how they should behave. You should not have an idea of who they are going to be before you meet them. You should just meet them. Okay? So a lot of people fail to realize that we choose friends based on what we want to see ourselves around, if that makes sense. But I'm already aware of this. Okay? I'm already aware that a lot of people only want to be my friend because of how I look. Like, I know that's what draws people to me originally. Because nobody has any other reason prior to that, if that makes sense. Like, nobody knows anything about me already. And my taste, like, nobody knows anything. So I know it's all surface level, which is fine. Okay? But once you get past the surface, once you actually meet me, that's when people have a hard time understanding. Because once you realize that I'm really not out here doing anything, or I'm not trying to do anything but progress within myself, and that I just have this YouTube channel to talk, basically, because nobody talked to me. Like, from middle school to high school, I think the only speakers that I ever heard, or the only people that spoke to me about life, were like my peers my age, which they weren't talking about anything, or like the occasional speaker that came to the school and spoke. Like, it was never, I never had those lessons one-on-one and stuff like that. Like, because I really didn't like to talk. And I still don't, but I realized talking is a vital tool, so now I abuse it, if that makes sense. Okay? So with friendship, you're allowing another person in. Okay? So what I like to do when I'm becoming friends with somebody is I like to make sure I talk more than them. Because if you talk more than them, then they can never complain about you not having anything to talk about. Because all you have to do is just keep flooding the conversations with more and more things to talk about. But you never have to speak on yourself unless they ask questions. When they ask guided questions, that's when you can let them know different amounts of information about yourself. But if they're not, make sure you keep the conversation outside of the realm of the world that you live in. Okay? This is how I live with everybody. I'm open to answer anything to anybody. I'm willing to talk to everybody because I view myself as a normal human, just like everybody else is. Okay? So, once you pass that level of comfort where you feel like you can speak to them, okay, and then there's a transitioning phase. This is where a lot of people start to have expectations. Okay, people start to think that you have to talk every day. People start thinking that you have to hang out every day. People start thinking that you have to do the same activities every day with each other. But in the transitioning phase, what a lot of people don't realize is that before, y'all were strangers. And if there's an after, y'all are going to be strangers again, if that makes sense, because that's the only other option. Because once you're friends, that can either progress or die. Like this, that's actually it. All right, this is the transitioning phase going forward. Boop. Okay, you can either go backwards and be strangers again, or you can keep progressing. See what I'm saying? And then this breaks into being better friends or getting together. And if you get together, that breaks into working out and breaking up. You see what I'm saying? Like it's a tree that just keeps going. So these friends, everybody wants to have friends, right? But what I stop at is the transitioning phase between where they act different towards you, but it can always just go back to what it was, because I don't trust anybody. Trust is something you shouldn't give to anybody, because no man or woman is worth more than what they say. Okay? And words are worthless. Like, so basically, with that being said, we're just people, you know? We're all equal. We're just people. And no matter what somebody says to me or does for me, I'm never convinced, because it's easy to manipulate nowadays. It's easy to make an idea look better than what it was. So people aren't really proving anything to me. So when people want to take up my time of my day, okay, and I choose to spend time with these people, what I don't understand is how somebody could think that you're not cool with them, okay? Because that's me spending my time. It should be enough right there, because time is one thing I'll never get back, okay? And when you're friends, it should be mutual. It should be a mutual agreement to spend time, because that's all that's being spent is time, okay? And it should be understood that with that time, there also comes a freedom, okay? Like, we can spend a lot of time together, but I'm gonna need a lot of time away as well, because before, all I had was this time away from you. See what I'm saying? And when we're friends, you should respect me enough to not question any of my decisions, because you should understand that I'm gonna be able to do whatever I want to do, especially with me being capable of making my own decisions, me not having to update you on everything, and me being a stranger prior to us ever meeting. Okay, so temporary friendships don't exist to me, because if it just doesn't work out, then y'all were never friends. You just prove that y'all were never friends, if that makes sense. So what I like to do to avoid all of that is, when you're getting into that phase where you start to ask a lot of questions or whatever, if a lot of the conversations just end up being arguments, then you're already realizing what the basis or the foundation of the friendship's going to be. Because with a lot of my friendships, I realized that before we were actually friends, they would just argue a lot. So then once they argued and you became friends, it just became friends that argued. And that's not a good foundation for a friendship. Second, the second foundation that you would want is what I prefer, actually. It's where you can be friends, have no set obligations for each other, not have to communicate, and still understand that y'all respect each other and that y'all are willing to hang out. Because this leaves so much space for y'all to not argue. Because one thing I'm not trying to do is argue. Because a lot of people tend to do, whether they admit it or not, once they start disagreeing, it becomes an argument. That's what an argument is. It's just a disagreement, okay? And what a lot of people don't know how to do is save face, okay? Saving face would just be, well, not necessarily, not in the business sense where you're trying to give credit to anybody else, but just saving face and being respectful to not only yourself but the friendship. Like, a lot of arguments that people have shouldn't be had, because you should already understand that was where it was gonna go. You know, like, if I'm out here arguing with everybody I meet, and then we all just become friends as a group, I'm gonna already expect to argue, because that's how we became friends. So when people start bringing up all these topics, people start bringing up all these arguments, it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to deal with it, because a part of a friendship, like more than half of it belongs to you, if that makes sense. Because I would say it was 50-50, a mutual agreement, but it's really not. It's really for who cares less, okay? Whoever cares less isn't gonna put any effort into the friendship, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not gonna put any effort into the people, because I find it more suitable to put effort into people and not a friendship with the people. Anyways, I don't know what's wrong with these people. And yeah, so what I don't like to see is when people are setting standards, you know? Because I literally just said this, setting standards for how people should act. If you're friends, why is there being a standard made? Why is there being a standard? Why is there a standard being made? How about that? That's a better way of saying that. I'm not autistic. And I don't know, bro. The world is just becoming a lot more sensitive, so it's making friendships a lot harder, okay? And friendships get a lot more difficult whenever you have feelings for whoever you're being friends with. And they become even more difficult whenever you've built a stereotype about a friend and then you end up being correct. Because when you're correct about a stereotype, that means everything you thought about somebody was just right. Because that means they actually just proved to be exactly what you thought. And when somebody ends up being exactly what you thought, I don't know how y'all think about people, but if I ever build a stereotype of somebody, it's never anything good. Never. Because for what? Why would I take the time to measure their actions or their worth to somebody else if it was just going to be positive? Because I'm not going to try to overshadow any of my prior friends with anybody new and be like, oh, they're so much better. Because at the end of the day, if I'm not trusting you, I'm trying to find reasons of what makes you different. You know, because that's what that's what we're doing at the end of the day. We're just trying to see what makes having another person better than being alone. And if you already have friends, then you're no longer alone, and you're just trying to find the assets that these people bring to your life or to your group for somebody else's life. And yeah, that's really all being a friend should be. Just being a support system, being somebody that understands that they don't understand, or just being somebody you can confide into. It's not the emotional connection. It's not the time hanging out. Because yes, a lot of people do spend a lot of time with their friends. A lot of people do a lot of activities with their friends, and that's good. But it shouldn't be built solely on that. It should be built more on the level of the person and not what you can get from the person in the outside world. Like, oh, I get to spend every day with my friends. You know, like, that shouldn't determine y'all being friends versus me and my friend Cheyenne being able to talk from across the state. You know what I mean? Like, everything's not physical. So living in the physical world is irrelevant. How about that? That's just what I'm gonna say. But yeah, that's really it, honestly. So I'll take what you want from it. If you don't take anything from any of my videos, that's fine too. But I don't care. Y'all have a good one.